Today, the European Union announced rather discouraging forecasts regarding the duration of Russia's war against Ukraine. And today, the president of Lithuania, Gitanas Nausėda, stated that unfortunately he does not see any grounds for optimism regarding the end of the war. In his opinion, Russia is merely imitating the peace process and therefore this war could drag on for years. And in some ways, the statement made yesterday by the American President Donald Trump at the NATO summit may unfortunately make Europe a bit complacent in this regard, because Trump tried to reassure the Europeans and stated that as long as he is president, Russia will not invade Europe. And that's why they can continue to build their defensive structures and their entire security architecture. Well, for at least a few more years. And unfortunately, this fits into the context that Russia's war against Ukraine on Ukrainian territory could also last for several years. At the same time, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan stated that Trump promised him he would come to Turkey at any moment if Erdogan manages to arrange and hold direct talks between Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin. Well, there you have it. Moscow has already responded to this, stating that in order to set the date for the third round of negotiations with Ukraine, several more prisoner exchanges need to take place first. So, once again, they're looking for excuses not to go to the negotiations. Well, in this episode, we'll also touch a bit on Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, who today came up with a new reason to block Ukraine's accession to the European Union. My name is Pechiy. Today is June 26th on the calendar. Next, everything in order. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, give it a like, write any comment you want, and be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechiy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. So today high-level meetings are taking place in the European Union. And today, the president of Lithuania, Gitanas Nausėda, voiced what many European officials had been saying behind the scenes. And he voiced a rather discouraging forecast regarding the duration of Russia's war against Ukraine. Nausėda sees no grounds for optimism regarding the end of the war in Ukraine in the near future. He stated that Russia is merely imitating the peace process. Here is his quote: "I hope that by the time the next multi-year financial framework is adopted, the war in Ukraine will be over. But for now, I am not very optimistic." And what next? The Lithuanian leader explained his position by saying that Russia is merely imitating the peace process, and according to the president, Moscow is not showing any real desire to move forward. Quote, "I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. This is because of Russia's unwillingness to move forward. It is only pretending and imitating negotiations." Next, Nausėda emphasized that a ceasefire is a key condition for starting a peaceful dialogue, but right now it does not exist and is not expected. Therefore, he emphasizes the response must be unequivocal. Quote, "We must introduce the 18th package of sanctions against Russia. In my opinion, this package is good, strong and sufficient. But of course, we must avoid any exceptions or relaxations in it." Separately, Nausėda emphasized the importance of transatlantic unity. He supported the initiative to involve third countries in European defense procurement schemes. Regarding Ukraine's future in the European Union, Nausėda called for speeding up the negotiation process and avoiding double standards. "It is unacceptable when we see a selective approach to countries seeking to become members of the European Union. I mean Moldova and Ukraine. Both countries are making great efforts and achieving good results in implementing reforms. But unfortunately, due to some bilateral obstacles, Ukraine cannot open the first negotiation cluster. But everyone believes that this cluster should be opened as soon as possible and the rest should be opened by the end of the year. Quote, "It's useful to set a political goal, for example, to see Ukraine as a member of the European Union, starting from January 1st, 2030. And further, he added that this is a difficult task, but at the same time, it is exactly what motivates. That is, to set a certain deadline and move together toward that deadline. Next, we will move on to Donald Trump's statements. But in the context of Ukraine joining the European Union, I also want to mention Viktor Orban in this regard, because the Prime Minister of Hungary once again expressed strong protest against Ukraine joining the European Union. This time he called the war in Ukraine the main problem. On the eve of the European Union summit, Orban noted that the war in Ukraine is the main problem, so Hungary is not ready to support the integration of a country that is in a state of armed conflict. So that's what the problem is, it turns out. Quote, the problem is the war. If we integrate Ukraine into the European Union, we are integrating the war. And we don't want to be in the same community with a country that is at war, that projects the war onto us as well. This means that if a member of the European Union is at war, it means that the European Union is at war, and we don't like that, said Viktor Orban. So, Vityusha, go to Moscow to your buddy dictator Putin and tell him to end the war if you don't want to integrate the war into the European Union so much. And when asked for clarification on whether Orban would be ready to unblock negotiations on Ukraine's accession if Russia ceases fire, the Hungarian Prime Minister, did not give a clear answer. He stated that there is currently no ceasefire, so there's no point in discussing it. They tell him if the European Union puts pressure on Moscow together and Moscow ceases fire, will you immediately unblock Ukraine's accession to the European Union? And Orban kept silent and said, well, there is no ceasefire right now. In short, Orban is once again just trying to find some excuses for why he is against it. Well, regarding the security of Europe and this discouraging forecast from NATO, I would add Donald Trump's statement at the NATO summit here. It is perceived in a positive light, but there is also a negative aspect to this statement. As reported today, United States President Donald Trump expressed full support for NATO and its defense mission after the Alliance Leaders Summit. As Trump stated, these people truly love their countries, this is not a deception, and we are here to help them. Moreover, the American leader stated at a closed session that Russia will never attack NATO while he is president. 32 NATO countries in turn agreed to more than double their target defense spending. This used to be a stumbling block for Trump, but now it has become a source of pride for him. And this turnaround by the United States president was the result of large-scale efforts by NATO allies aimed at flattering him. He spent the night at the Royal Palace and received an enthusiastic message from the NATO Secretary General. And one leader after another in a closed session spoke with praise for his leadership and his recent attack on Iran. The summit was literally tailored to the tastes of the American president. And after all that very Noseda said, I think we should take the motto, Make NATO Great Again, a reference to Make America Great Again. And what's the danger of this statement? The danger is that Trump essentially gave European countries an illusory guarantee that Putin won't attack. You have at least 3 more years, so you arm yourselves, rearm your armies, defend yourselves, there will be no attack, so the war in Ukraine can continue. It's supposedly not threatening you right now? Nevertheless, against this backdrop, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan stated that his American counterpart Donald Trump will join the peace negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, on the condition that the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin agrees to take part in them. Erdogan said that during his first meeting with Trump, since his inauguration, he told Trump that Ankara wants the Ukrainian and Russian leaders to gather together in Turkey for peace negotiations. And then a quote from Erdogan. Trump replied, if President of Russia Vladimir Putin comes to Istanbul or Ankara to solve the problem, then I will also come there. We will establish the necessary contacts, and God willing, this meeting will take place as soon as possible. But it's obvious here that Putin, just like on May 15th, will once again come up with a bunch of reasons why he can't come to these direct negotiations. Zelensky, more than a month ago, publicly told Putin directly, I'm in Turkey, come here, stop hiding in your bunker, stop hiding your bald head somewhere. Come to the negotiations. You were the one shouting that you only want direct talks, no ceasefire. Well, it's obvious that now Putin's people will come up with another reason why not, why Putin can't do it. And by the way, they've already come up with one. The Kremlin has stated that they want the date of the 3rd round of negotiations with Ukraine to be set after the prisoner exchanges are completed. According to Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, Ukraine and Russia are currently working on implementing the humanitarian agreements that were reached during the 2nd round of negotiations in Istanbul. And, as he stated, after all the agreed-upon exchange procedures are completed, it will be time to decide on the dates for the 3rd round. But Russia insists that the third round should also be at the level of Medinsky, but definitely not at the level of dictator Putin. Dictator Putin, by the way, is even afraid to travel to Brazil now and says, "I'd rather connect via video just in case I get arrested." He's so brave, he's only brave enough to yap from his bunker, give orders, and bomb completely peaceful Ukrainian cities. So, that's the news from Europe. I'll leave it at that for now. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.